Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
5 years ago, the Power of We Symposium was created to provide a platform for kids from all sectors where they could have a safe and comfortable environment in which to share both their joys and concerns. The Power of We Symposium is proud to have served over 250 kids throughout Romania when we took our mission global back in May of 2023. Now, 2 teams of amazing volunteers from both the U.S. and Romania embarked on an 8-day Legacy of Hope tour, bringing encouragement and hope to not only the kids of Romania, but also the adults who support them, and also to over 100 kids here in the U.S. who contributed handwritten letters of hope to our Romania mission of 2023. Now, this year, we are proud to provide this opportunity yet again in October, and we are super excited to up our game. New venue, 750 kids this time, and we want to see you there. We're looking forward to meeting you in person at this year's event, which promises, as always, incredible speakers, amazing content, and of course, some of the greatest kids on the planet. So, mark your calendars for October 24th, and we'll see you here in Chicagoland for the Power of We Symposium 2024. This year's theme is Always Together, Never Alone. Tickets are available now on Eventbrite or at powerofwesymposium.com.
Before you get it, baby, show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Boy, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind. You walk right past me, pretending like you don't see what's yours for the taking tonight.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. That was a nice little ditty I just made up on the fly. Hey, welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. And I'm just so excited to be here. I'm Dr. Lauren. And it is a Wednesday, right? Yeah, Wednesday. Last day of January. Ooh. Already inside of halfway through, pretty much, Q1. Stay in alignment with your goals. I'm just going to say. I'm not about to get on you, but it was really for myself more than anyone else. But yeah, it's moving along. Time waits for no one. Look at one of my favorite Christmas presents this year. Don't you love this? Be kind. Everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Right? And then it says be kind over here. I wore it to the health club this morning for the first time. And a lot of people were like, I was like, what? And then, oh, you know how you wear stuff and you forget? And you're like, what are you staring at me for? Oh, go right ahead. So anyway, he I'm so over the internet. Just bear with us. And to my guest, James Watson, backstage, when you're out here, if I freeze, you just keep going. I don't know. I don't know. It's Chicago. I think we get our internet from the dollar store. I've said it before. I'm convinced of it. I'm not kidding. Dollar General Internet. So bear with it. Bear with us. We're gonna have a great show anyway. Great conversation. James Watson is here. I was saying if he looks familiar, he was here before. He was gonna be here before, but then you know how things happen, right? So he's here now. So yes, you have seen the face before, but you have not heard the voice or anything. But you're about to, and it's all about. He's all about sales. He's almost too smart. For real. I probably couldn't hang out with him for very long because I'd be like, he's really smart, right? And I want to talk about sales because all of us, whatever we're doing, we have something we have to do to move either our service or a product or whatever. For most of us, especially entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and it is almost the kind of thing you don't want to admit you're good at because usually salesmen, what kind of angle is he coming with? They get a bad rep, a lot of them, right? And a lot of us are intimidated by it. It's almost right there with fear of public speaking, fear of sales, telemarketing. Oh, anybody ever had that job when you were like 19 or 20? Oh my God. I used to be like, if one more person hangs up on me, I learned a lot about myself at that job. But anyway, sales. We're going to talk about that today. So here he comes. Put your hearts on the screen. It's our way of saying welcome virtually. A lot of great information on the way because here comes James Watson. Hello, James Watson.
Hi, Lauren. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Oh, Inspector Watson, I presume. No, I don't know. Why was there a detective named Watson?
Yep,
Yeah,
there was. I've heard that one before.
he was someone's partner, Sherlock Holmes
Yep.
and Watson. Okay, all right. When you can't remember things at 61, you start going. So when it comes flying and you're like, woohoo, still got it. So how are you? How have you been since I saw you here in the Windy City back
Uh,
in August, end of August,
yeah.
September?
No, it's been going well. Just keeping the business going, and before, like you mentioned in your intro, about keeping focus on what your goals are, not just for the new year, but just in general, and then having a plan and sticking to it. That's really what I've been focused on. I've always been focused on it, but in Q4, I made some pivots and, what I'm focused on, where I'm marketing, where I'm doing my networking and some of my outbound marketing. And so I've been sticking to that and it's been going well.
I'm sitting here laughing because I'm like, I just keep it real. You got to admit, tell the truth, despite the devil. Do you think that because of like being in sales and all of that people are a little misinformed about the mindset of a salesperson, a sales guru? Because I'm sitting here and I'm going, boy, I can imagine being at dinner with James Watson. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm not good at this. Quit talking about sales. I suck. Seriously. I don't know what it is. Do you get that where people are like, so what do you do? And then you say sales and they're like, ooh, oh my, look at the time. All right. No, I mean, I'm just saying, you know where I'm going. It's a nice way to break into it today. The whole thing about sales. First of all, are there misconceptions?
Yeah, I think there are huge misconceptions, although I think that's starting to shrink down. In the past, people really associated sales with, okay, a used car salesman or door-to-door salesman, or someone that is kind of slick and is trying to put one over on you.
You
Whereas I believe now it's evolved into, something that everyone does, especially with social media and with networking, like you mentioned, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, everyone really, whether they know it or not, and whether they knew it or not in the past, is a salesperson. And
yeah.
so, to your point about being at dinner, I don't introduce myself as someone that does sales. If someone asks me what I do, I specifically point out what I have done, for large corporations, small corporations, and everything in between. When I was back in corporate and working for startups, and then transitioning over into my entrepreneurial journey, and starting my own company, and being focused on helping especially small mid-sized businesses that really need that help because they are intimidated by sales, and a lot of people aren't good at it. They can maybe get better at it, but there is a certain amount of just innate skill that that can't be learned, honestly. And then a lot of entrepreneurs get to that point where the shine wears off, and the money runs out, especially if they've been funded or not, of whatever proprietary product or unique service that they might have, and then they kind of hit a crossroad. And a
So
lot of them don't have the infrastructure in the first place, but then they
yeah.
to go to the next level, they need help.
Okay, we need to get this off the table so I can quit looking at it on the screen. It's distracting me. I have ADHD. So, fractional. I'm like, what in the world is a fractional VP? I've seen a lot of names up there on that screen over the years, but I've never seen fractional VP of sales. You made that shit up?
No, I did not
Oh,
make that
it's a
shit up.
real thing?
No, I didn't even know
Doggone it.
about it, and that's why we have to educate a lot of people on it too. When I started my own company, and then I became part of a larger organization that I'm licensed with, called Sales Acceleration, that provides a lot of the back end support. It's kind of like having a corporate umbrella, and processes that I combine, with my 30 plus years of sales and sales leadership experience. And fractional, as the name implies, is besides being a fraction of the cost, it is
Ba-dum-bum.
people that are in my position, and my peers across the country, that bring all of their experience, and then all of the what we get from that corporate umbrella that we have, to the table, and work on a part-time basis or a fractional basis, if you will, for companies that normally that couldn't yet afford a sales leader or VP of sales, whatever it is, but they need to have help, and
Oh,
they're
so
not.
almost like a sales consultant.
Yeah, so it does fall into the category of sales consultancy, but there's a whole ecosystem of people that I network with, that work in different disciplines, but have the
Mhm.
same, target audience, in that small to mid-sized business, and it can range from HR to CTOs to CMOs, to legal, you name it, across the board. And so we all have a common goal there, even though we're working in different, channels,
Right.
to help companies out. But making them aware of that, and then when they come to realize and are willing to accept help, it's a big important one.
Yeah.
Then we can come in, and we're focused without being encumbered by what corporate America held had in place for all of us, which is why we do what we do, and then we can be very streamlined and
Mhm.
effective with helping those companies out.
Okay, so if you say what's your definition of small business? Because
Small,
here's what we're gonna
small.
have to do here. Wait, because here's what we're gonna have to do here.
Okay.
Because if because your primary customer, your that you look for, the people you primarily work with, let's say your ideal client, your
Hmm.
avatar, da 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 da. We all know the
Right.
lingo. Um, is that how many people work in that company?
Well, if you were to define small to mid-sized business, from first of all, we kind of define it as 1 to 50 million, in revenue and annual revenue. But if you were to equate that over into employees, it would roughly be 10 to 200 employees. That
Okay,
said, but that said, I work with a lot of technology companies and I'm in a lot of groups. And so I've actually gone downstream and worked with smaller companies and even with, CEOs that are still kind of in and co-founders that are in that proof of concept phase. And they're still doing all the sales because it's expected by their investors, to do that. So I've also created programs for the smaller companies as well.
Okay, good. So can we do this during this interview today? Because I know the people that watch this show, and they're pretty much like me. You know what I mean? It looks like we have a whole bunch of stuff going, and a lot of us do, and a lot of people to a lot of whatever the case may be. So what I'm getting at is I want to know how let's talk about some things today that that you're an expert on that assist in closing and about making good sales and understanding the core of what good sales is all about that anybody can take and implement and use, because I don't think there's a lot of people here that I don't know, the majority of the people that watch this show, I know, most likely don't have 1 to 50 million. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying?
Right.
But they may have the mindset that could lead to having that one day. So, what can you bring in and pour into us today as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs about some of the greatest misconceptions for the small business person like us as far as how we approach our sales mindset? Because
Okay.
it's not easy for a lot of us. I'm
No,
serious.
no. I mean, sales was, even though I became very good at it in sales leadership, I, was not, I mean, I guess I had it in me, but I was also very intimidated by it when I got out of college and decided to
Is it fear
go
of
into sales.
rejection, James? What is it?
I think it's a lot of things because what do they say? Number one thing people are afraid of is public speaking, and number two is death. So
Wow.
I think it's a combination of things there, and a fear of rejection, and of looking like a salesperson, because the conception or misconception about sales is that you are trying to sell something, and I think that's an important thing to focus on, because I've learned over time that selling is not is not and shouldn't be an event. It should be the logical conclusion of a mutually agreed upon decision that's being made between yourself and the person or company that you're benefiting. And so, to that point, it's very important to have process in place. It's important to have infrastructure in place, and then realize when the time comes that you need help. And making, possibly once a smaller company starts growing, the first critical hire is a business development rep, and then having a sales infrastructure created, which is where I come in, creating a sales playbook, running everything from how do they prepare for calls, how do they prepare for meetings, what kind of research do they do, how are their pitches, how do they handle objections, how are they getting that first and second meeting, how are they preparing for that, how are they presenting it, and then how are they moving it forward logically into the quote unquote close. And then, very importantly, how are they onboarding that client? Are they spending a lot of time initially to set a foundation for that client, and then
I think that's really important.
making more of that effort at the beginning, and then having a motion where, at least on a quarterly basis, if not, more often, maybe with a larger client, they're reaching out, establishing, a relationship where, that client gets to the point where they know, like, and trust them. They already trust them enough to do business with them. But then, by doing that, if you're looking to keep that client and grow that client, which pretty much everyone is, and get referrals, they have to know, like, and trust you. And that doesn't just happen overnight. They trusted you
That's right.
enough based on the concept of what you presented to them, that just made them come over and utilize your services or product. But then beyond that, there was some, big company I worked for, the CEO, and it was, it had gotten to where it was mature. He mentioned that that over 70% of the company's business was coming from existing clients, either directly or indirectly, through growth of the client, through referrals, word of
Yeah,
mouth,
for sure.
or when people leave, they become evangelists for your product or service. And so
Exactly.
this all really is, kind of has that wheel fly, or flywheel, I'm sorry, effect.
It does. And trust, I had just written it down before you got into it, and that's exactly right. That's the first thing I head towards building. In whether I am the client or I have a client, you see what I'm saying? Depending on which
Right,
side of the transaction, it's still the most important thing for me. And
right.
so I did want to say this though. Um, I want to talk about this because a lot of people, there's a difference between building, when you're building whatever you're building deep as opposed to wide. And I've always been the kind, I do the slow game because
Hmm.
I'm playing the long game. You see what I'm saying? And so I'm not like when I was in multi-level marketing, I refused to be a retail whore, as they called it, which meant I called my clients that week when I was trying to get my quota. You see what I mean? I didn't do much in between. They only heard from me when it was time to order
Right,
because it's like one and done, one and done. It's just, it's not the long game. It's not an investment. It's a low unit
right,
business, if you ask me. So let's talk about that, about the responsibility in customer service. When you're sale, you get the sale, but to nurture that relationship after you've made the sale. I think a
right.
lot of people, they get the money and run. And when I say run, it's not like they don't fulfill their obligation or their commitment, but they don't do much beyond delivery.
Right. I think that's a very good point. And a lot of salespeople, especially those that are working for larger corporations and have big base salaries, and they know they're going to be paid on commissions, and some of them have support, mechanisms in place from
Mhm.
that company, but they do have that hit and run mentality. And I
Hit and
think
run.
that frankly, when I got good at sales and I became a specialist and I was running my kind of running my own show, my mentality, and I think this can also be an entrepreneur's mentality, without even knowing about it, was that I was doing my job, I was getting the deals done, I was making my money. The things I mentioned there were all me, me, me. And once I went into management, then I had an epiphany and realized that, oh, this isn't just about me. It's about the company. It's about the investors, the shareholders, if that's the case. And it's about the clients, and then the importance. Whether people like to do that kind of customer like to do customer service or not. There's some good salespeople, they don't like to do customer service. Once they realize that that is really their lifeblood, that the majority of their business should be coming directly or indirectly from existing clients. Once they've built that up, then they can really, especially if it's someone that doesn't like sales, then that makes their life a lot easier, because now they're not having to quote unquote sell. They're not having to sit there and make all the calls and face the rejection. Now they've just got great relationships with people that want to help them out.
Exactly. Now, let's sometimes I think too that a lot of us don't see certain elements of what we do as sales. For instance, um I'm gonna use my own self as an example. The Power of We Symposium. We're just kicking it off. It's in October. You guys saw the promo at the beginning
Yep.
of the show. It's October 24th. But we're working on our sponsorship packages because we're upping our game this time. We're adding an additional 500 kids. So now it's 750 kids, and the food alone is $37,000 for the kids, right? So I'm like, what? Right? But again, when you reach for new things, so now sponsorship packaging and putting all that together falls into the category for me of sales, because we have to put this together, and we're creating a bridge for a positive transaction where you help with this, and here's what we want to do for you. And it's scary. It makes my heart go, because this is where I want to go right now with this, is how important what is the thing that keeps so many of us from understanding or to start, how can we start questioning the value of what we're doing when it comes to sales? Now, I can sit and talk to somebody about the Power of We Symposium. Oh my God, we went to Romania, da 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 da, da, and the kids are one, and pounding, my hands get sweaty. What is that?
Okay, you had cut out there for a little bit, but I think I know where you were going.
Okay.
And I believe the response to where you were going is that it goes back to sales being, especially for people that haven't been in sales, or aren't necessarily comfortable with it, haven't developed those skills. They're still looking at it as an event, and they don't see the bigger picture of, really what I would call unconditional giving. And there's a great book, called The Go Giver, that really speaks to that, which is, essentially unconditionally give. It's not truly unconditional, but you're giving without expecting something immediately in return. Of course, everyone down the line would like to get something in return, but it's not a quid pro quo type of a thing. And I think that's what everyone's looking for is, if I'm making effort right now,
Yeah.
I want to have results in a very short term. But they're not building up that structure, really, that infrastructure. And it's not just sales, just in general. They're
Yeah.
not building up that infrastructure that is going to set them up to have repeatable and predictable processes in all aspects of their business, and then really grow it organically that way. And a lot of times, like the work that you're doing, which is, you do a lot of great work. If you were to try to quantify that in the short term, all you'd be doing is saying, wow, I'm being dumb, I'm losing money, but you've obviously been very successful in what you do. And a lot of that comes from kind of that go-giver mentality.
So, what about this? I know a lot of people fear sounding salesy.
Right.
And we know, let's go to, like, for instance, your emails that you get every day. You already know those ones that make, you Lauren, last chance, trying to bully me into, when on my emails, and I'm like, we know what they're trying to do because
Yeah.
instantly it sounds and resonates as salesy. So,
Right.
what, and a lot of people are afraid of sales because they don't want to come off as salesy.
Right.
It's like this shame thing. So,
Yeah.
talk about what is it that makes one person sound salesy and another person peddling the same wares and they don't sound salesy at all. What's the difference in the two?
Yeah, I think the difference in the two is that people that aren't good at sales, or that haven't developed their skills yet, sales and marketing, they don't feel they have any other choice. And so they're usually, especially now with all the technology and AI, a lot of things are being auto-generated, or they're doing sequencing for emails or for in-mails. There's all sorts of
True.
resources for that. And they don't know any better than to do it that way. And so now, unfortunately, it's almost gone back to the old school days of the used car salesman, because that's how people are coming across. So number one piece of advice would be like what I did at the beginning of my career when I went into management. I didn't have management experience, but I took all the cumulative negative parts of all the managers that I had and just did the opposite. So for starters, do the opposite of what the people are doing that is annoying you.
Mm,
And then also, playing long ball, and then building the relationships. Because even though, you're building the relationships that, with networking and through marketing, that are going to benefit you. It's a slow burn, but they're going to benefit you more in the long run. But then they're going to come back in spades. And so, staying focused on that, and then also with whatever messaging you have, whether it's you and me talking, or whether it's going out to people that you don't know but they're target prospects, provide information of value that's topical, to the groups that you're targeting, and then build it up that way, and then make connections, and there are tools for doing that automate some things, but you can make them very natural.
Yeah.
And the goal is to get the connection with the person, make the connection, and then find out about their business first, and then how they might be able to, from a perspective of interest.
There it is.
And then finding out, even one of the things I do when I'm using I have an email sequencing product I use, but when I first reach out, it's a very targeted audience. I know they're in my space. And I know that they have, let's say, second and third level connections on LinkedIn. My first intro to them is, I've noticed we're in the same space and we have some mutual connections. Would love to learn more about your company to explore whether, you could be a resource for my clients and prospects. What I'm doing there is I'm not making it about me. I'm genuinely making it about them. And then a lot of those people want to set up meetings because they realize that the first thing that I'm focused on is them. And then, of course, when I do speak with them, I try to make it about them, initially, and ask a lot of questions. And then inevitably, those people, they start to trust you in a short period of time. And then they're curious about what you do. And then there's your chance to figure out, okay, is this a networking partner potentially, where there's synergies where we can help each other out with leads because we play in the same space, or are they a potential client? And a lot of times they'll bring it up, like I've explained what I do, and then it was just a networking conversation, and then all of a sudden, that founder or CEO would say, it's a little bit early for us, but we've really been, we might benefit from the types of services you provide. Well, there was no selling going on there, and so I think it's people learning to use techniques and add value and do kind of that unconditional giving. And that was another point I was going to make about the Go Giver, which I thought was a really good book, and you get it in audiobooks too, which focuses on that. But the author of that book had didn't host it, was a keynote on a provisors meeting, and he talked about all the things he talked about in the book. But then he said, you know what, one of the statements he made was give, if you're, let's say getting $1,000, give $5,000 worth of value. And that can be by working smart, working a little harder initially, but a lot of people, that's counterintuitive because they don't want to do too much work for too little money. Well, by doing that, you're establishing all that trust and credibility. And he goes on to point out that it's very important that you value yourself. A lot of people go into sales or doing their marketing thinking that the other person's doing them a favor. Well, if you've done a good job, it's the other way around. You get the person on the other side, or the company on the other side, to realize that you're really going to benefit them. And so in that regard, you can start to build up what your value is and where you value yourself, and not come across as someone that's subordinate in that relationship. It really should be, even a relationship, and you have to be respectful of your own time. You have to value yourself. And then you especially if you have a lot of experience and can bring a lot to the table, not being shy about, you need to be fair, but not being shy about, asking for, the type of compensation that based on the value you're bringing to the table.
How does it, a lot of this, I'm wondering too, for a good salesman, or successful, consistent, you got to be consistent, or you're not gonna like sales at all, because you're not gonna be able to be successful. So what about things like hacks, for instance, like knowing how to not become too personal too quickly? Sometimes with something, you know what I'm saying, when a person, you're like, come on now, you acting like we grew up together, and you understand what I'm saying. So are there
I do completely
things that rub on people that you just don't do? Talk about that if you could.
Yeah, well, coming off too quickly, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before with when you're first talking to someone or first engaging with someone, making it about them, and, uh, you know, not, if there are a lot of tools out there, and unfortunately, those tools, again, a lot of them are AI generated. They're very useful, but a lot of people are leaning on them too much, and they're trying to shortcut things, and then they're actually becoming uh, as bad or worse than the old school used car salesman. Without realizing it, but that's how they're. People just right click, delete, dismiss, block, whatever. When they, if they're on LinkedIn or they're on an email and they receive something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think it's very important there to not overutilize AI. Like, I use AI driven tools, but I don't send anything out that I haven't,
How do you use them?
yeah, there's a couple ways. There's one good resource that everyone could possibly benefit from that's listening here. It's called connected.io, and it's spelled
Wait,
Kennected.
start again. It is what,
K-
K?
Kennected.io. And what they are is an AI-driven in-mail sequencing platform. And unlike, first of all, I believe that LinkedIn, and Facebook are a lot more powerful. This is really more of a LinkedIn tool, though, and they have to get access to your LinkedIn, like it's called Sales Navigator, which is the
Oh, yeah, yeah,
higher
yeah.
version that you can prospect from in LinkedIn. Well, they take what you would normally do in LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is to identify the scope of your audience, your geography. Are they second and third level connections? You don't necessarily or need to be don't need to be going out to your first level
Talk about
connections.
that. A lot
Yeah,
of
so
people don't know what that means. They see that first, second, third, and all that, and have no idea what it
yeah,
means.
so first level connection is if I reach out to you, Lauren, and you accept my invite, you're now a first level connection. A second and third level connection means that you are, either once removed or two times removed from the person that, let's say, you're looking to reach out to. And that's where it becomes important, like in LinkedIn Sales Navigator, to search for second and third level connections, the type of title you're looking for, the industry you're looking for, the geography, and then you can construct with and Connected is very good at this, and I pay for the service every month. I'm not, don't have any skin in the game with them, but I recommend it to my clients and prospects and networking partners, and in forums like this, because it can be a very useful tool. And what they do is they help you put together a 5-part sequencing. Well, I mentioned before what my first sequence is. It's essentially my outreach is, notice that we have some mutual connections, that we work in the same space, because I've also done it by, kind of where I focus in, a lot in the technology space, even though I do work with other types of companies. But for this purposes of this, I'm being very focused on that. And then, going out to them and saying, would, love to learn more about your company, see if you could be a resource for my prospects and clients, which, by the way, has happened, and I've made good referrals there, which again goes back to kind of that initial unconditional giving. You can't wait to get something before you give something, and then you have to
Value.
determine later on if there are people taking advantage of you, or maybe they're not. They're looking out for themselves 100%. Well, then you can just politely kind of stop networking with them. But you have to have kind of a trusting initially. Most people that are networking have good intentions, and but not all give back. A lot are just take. And
Yeah.
so I think that is very important. And then to go back to connected.io, they help you set up like a 5-part sequencing, and then they get access to your LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and then you do your search in LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and then you save it. And once you save it, it in the URL, it creates there's a link there. It doesn't create it. It's there already, but you copy and paste that into their platform, and they help you do this the first time. But then once it goes in there, now you've got your search and the audience is going to go to, and you've whittled it down, because you can filter in that product to, let's say, a group of 1,000 that you want to go out to, let's say across the U.S. that are your ideal potential client or networking partner. And then the first sequence goes out. If they accept it, pulls it out of sequence. And as soon as I get that, then I'm just reaching out to them personally, because I'm being notified of it through LinkedIn and through that platform, the connected platform. Then I reach out to them and say, thank you for connecting. A lot of times they'll already even respond to me before, about 30% of the time, and this platform tracks it. They're connecting and then responding to me before I say another word off of that first part of the sequence. And then, out of that, there's like 30% that will interact and engage. And that's just in the first sequence. And so then it'll go on to the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, but they're all natural. They're not, none of them are salesy. None of them are promoting anything. They're all still just about connecting. Not selling anything about myself. You know what? When they looked at my link, if they look at my LinkedIn, they can see right in the headline what I do and read on if they're interested. And so, then what's cool about Connected is after that 5-part sequencing, if after I think 3 or 5 days, the people still haven't connected with you, then it pulls it out of sequence. And the reason that's important is that LinkedIn is always tracking. They don't like bots. They don't like auto-generated stuff, unless, of course, they're probably going to do their own version of it. I think they're already beta testing something similar to that, because they're seeing all these other companies making all this money. But it goes against your. They have like a credibility score. It's kind of like how SEO works, but within LinkedIn. And then, if you have too many requests out there that are pending, that actually lowers what's called your SSI, and everyone can check their SSI, their social selling index on LinkedIn, which gives you a score. And, most people are under 50, a lot are even under 40. Over 50 is pretty good. Over 60 is really good. Over 70 is lights out. And when I started working on mine and doing all the things, to build mine up, I got my SSI up to 74. And, it wasn't because I did something magical. It's because I followed a lot of the steps. And even I learned from some marketing partners of mine that I network with that had really good ideas. And it's important to, not just post your own content, and make your content valuable. Only about 20-30% of my content even talks about me or promoting me at all. And then the rest is all topical. But what's really important, and what's a really good tip, is, if you have target, people or companies, is follow them on LinkedIn and then watch for their posts, because you'll be notified when they post. It pops up in your own, feed. And then you can go over and then you can like their post. But a lot of people will stop at that. It's really important to like it and then to comment on it, because now you're starting to become a voice. And especially if you're making some good commentary on, what they talked about, and then adding some of your own. And then if you really like the post, then you can repost it and with comments and then tag that person. Well, that person may not even know who you are, but you've just put yourself that, if they're a prospect of yours, you've given them an awareness of you, and then you've just raised up your level of credibility with them. And then continuing that process, those are some of the things, and not having too many pending requests out there. So you can go into your contacts in LinkedIn, your connections, I should say, and then look at all of those that are pending, let's say more than a month. Well, they're not going to connect with you. Some people do, they're not in there often, but generally, anything that's aged more than a month, you can go through and then remove the connection request. That right there will start building up your credibility.
That makes sense. That's a heck a lot of us didn't know about. Let me ask you this. Let's move forward to the spot where you're on the call. I've always known that the intention that I set in anything when I'm putting anything out there, whether it's an ad or a Facebook ad or a post or whatever, is to get the person I'm looking for off of social media and onto a phone call or into a
Hmm.
discovery call. And so let's forward to that spot where that is
Okay.
now where you're at. One of the things I cannot stand, I am not kidding, is when I get face to face or here on the screen with somebody and they go into overselling.
Hmm.
They just oversell and drop names, and it's Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. It just turns me completely off. Can you talk about what that is that makes me just go, yeah, that's bitter. Get out of here.
Yeah.
When a person is overselling, it makes me suspicious. You
Yeah.
know, talk about
No, that's true, and it kind of goes back to having the mentality of learning first, seek kind of the Stephen Covey, seek first to understand and then to be understood. I think
mm,
that's an important thing to to keep in mind,
true.
because you'll get around, you'll be able to naturally, once you've shown that you're not just there for yourself, you're not selling someone. And,
Yeah,
and you've asked them a lot of questions, and it's good to have some questions written down. What I call like a qualifying form, because it forces you to keep them in mind and do a little research on them before you talk to them. Look at right now, it used to be tough to get information on people. Now it's click of the button on Facebook, on
right.
LinkedIn. You can find out everything about that person business and some of their personal life. And so I believe taking that position, and then also, like, if I connect with someone on LinkedIn, my whole goal is to set up a one-on-one meeting. Now that can be
Yeah,
a phone call, but now the new phone call is Zoom, right? Or doing
correct.
FaceTime, or
Correct.
being on, being like here on a show like this. Um, and so the goal is to get to that. But then once you do, and really, even before you respond to someone's connection request or whatever it is, doing some research on them. But I definitely always, before I have a networking meeting or a prospect meeting, I've looked at their website, I've looked at their profiles, I've looked at their about story, which really is kind of people's why story, if they have a good one,
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. It's
Yes.
about why, what motivated them, inspired them to do what they do now.
And
And
can I say something about that? How
yeah,
it had served me really well, and I tell my coaching clients this, and you're absolutely right. In that about section on LinkedIn, I have found in my own experience that a lot of the things that I pick up that I use later, that I drop into conversation, that the person I'm talking to, and it's not right off the bat, it's after we're building a rapport, and it's stuff that I find at the bottom of the about section where they'll say, and he also likes to fly Cessna airplanes. You
right,
see what I mean? Or the da 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 when he served in the Air Force, da
yeah.
da 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 da. Something that was nowhere up in the top or in the middle, but it's always at the bottom. And I'll
Yeah.
remember those things.
Yeah. And that's important because, a lot of times, if you even have taken the time to go read down to it, they know where it is in their
They
about
know where it
section.
is.
And then, you now you've already shown that, you know that, where they live, where they probably spent the better part of their life, especially like if they,
Correct.
went to college and maybe grad school in the same
Correct.
place where they're living now. Let's say they're in Chicago. I just had one like that yesterday. But then when you start going down that path, and you're
Mhm.
talking about that because first, when you're coming into a meeting, you're not just jumping right. And this, I think, an important point. You're not just jumping right into questions, because then that just is uncomfortable.
Right.
It's
Right.
you got to have establish some rapport, have some personal conversation for a few minutes. Sometimes it goes longer, because maybe you read something in that about section that you really have a common interest.
Correct.
Now that right there's your selling, because they're at the end of the day, people are doing business, with you first, with your company second, and your product or service
That's
last.
absolutely correct.
And so, having that information, and I think that can take a lot of the load off of people, because they'll realize it's like, oh, this is no different than me going to a, some kind of event or show or cocktail party where, I'm meeting someone, and you don't all of a sudden just think of it that way. How would you talk to that person? And then maybe eventually that even, even though you weren't planning on it, they'll ask you, well, what do you do for work? Well, that's really when it should come out. And then it's not selling them, so imagine, I think a good kind of image is to think about, meeting someone in a social situation, and then how would you behave there?
Right.
And then later on you might ask them some questions. But if you wouldn't do it in that social situation, you maybe do a little bit more of it in a business setting, but you really should kind of follow that same flow.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you this. This is probably a little off topic, but it's important. I got myself a dot card for Christmas. That's the little card where now when I'm out networking, if I'm out of hard cards, real business cards, they
Yeah.
can just tap the top of this to their phone and boom, all my contact information goes in. So let me ask you, and I thought I was getting it so that I wouldn't order regular business cards, but then I went somewhere. I was in Colorado speaking a couple weeks ago, and I had both, and I liked that I had both because I was giving students one thing because it felt like,
Yeah.
oh, this is really your phone number, where I gave adults, business. So anyway, I want to ask you this: how do you feel? Is is one better than the other? Do you use regular standard old school business cards, or are you strictly digital? What do you say about that when it comes to that relationship building when you're out networking and it's not online, it's in person?
Yeah, that's it's interesting that you bring that up because I was just at the company that I'm licensed with at the sales summit that they have every year and in Atlanta. And one of our productivity partners, they're called Pitch 59. They're really good. If you want to check them out, they and I end up not only signing up, but I'm going to invest in the company. I'm going to want
Oh, wow.
and so it's really good. Just but I'll send you information on
Okay,
it
do that.
later. But I'm just creating my pitch card, but it's similar to what you're talking about with that dot, product, your
Okay.
app. But it is real. It actually is creating a community, and it connects you with other people that have pitch cards, and you can even, you can look for those that are, kind of in your wheelhouse that you would network with, or that might be, potential clients of yours. And it, immediately, just like Dot, it will put your pitch card onto their phone, and then they can just add it to their contacts. But then it also has your 59-second, that's what they're called, pitch 59-second, like video about who you are, what you do, how you do it. And then all of your different contact information. And
Yeah.
then, they've done incredibly well
Excuse me.
because once people see it, they want to use it. Once
They
I
want to
saw
use it.
the CEOs,
Yeah.
he did a topic on it and had a booth. But once I saw it, then I did it. So to answer the other part of your question, between that and old school business cards, I still use business cards. But I'm really, now that I'm going to be using this other product, this other app, I'm going to be kind of testing it out. But I think
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
it's going to be I'll probably have a similar experience to what you had, because if you're dealing with college students or millennials, whatever,
Yeah,
younger
yeah.
people or people that really embrace technology, and it's not necessarily about age, but it's really more about a mindset.
Yes.
But people of a certain age that have been around, they still might like to feel and hold a card and get a card. Other people say, do you are people still using business cards? You've probably heard
Exactly.
that before.
Hey,
And so I think,
we've got 3 minutes left, and I don't
all
want to
right,
miss this question just came
okay,
in from John Dough. Doe. So
okay.
John's making money, and he wants to know. Hi Sherry Lynn, that's my niece. Hey Adam Duvall in the UK, Lori Whitney, and the rest of you. John wants to know if you can explain a little bit about it. Give us a 2-minute thing if you can. The frameworks of drawing up a contract.
Frameworks are drawing up a contract. So in my world, and I think this is kind of universal, it's because I'm also talking about what I, did in past lives, is you really come up with, I mean, unless it's like a standardized contract, which some big companies have, but if you have any input into that contract, which most solopreneurs do, my goal is to do assessments initially, and then come up with, discuss the results, and then come up with spend some time with the founder or founders coming up with a mutually agreed upon, a statement of engagement. And then that will have timelines and it will have deliverables. Perfect. And then when we agree upon that, and then we're both owning it, and the timeline on it and everything, then I draw up the contract, and that contract reflects what we've agreed upon.
Nice. Listen, if you, John Doe, or any of you out there watching now or on the replay would like to continue these dialogues with the awesome and so smart James Watson when it comes to all things sales and then some, use these two links. There's his LinkedIn, and you also see Sales Acceleration .bullseyelocations.com. And there's another one, and we're going to put all three of these connections inside the comment section immediately following the end of today's broadcast, which is actually right now. So get over and continue. He's got a lot of information. You can learn how to everything we do leads to conversion. That's what it's about. That's how you are successful. That's how you can the more money you make, the more easing of suffering and good you can do in the world. So you want to find out how to keep rising. James, thank you so much. Can't wait to see you again. You guys, I'll see you hopefully tomorrow. God willing, I'll meet you on the front porch tomorrow. The experts are back for our monthly show, so that'll be a lot of fun. And if you're in the New York area, I'm going to see some of you this weekend when I'm there for an interview with the awesome, go to my page, you'll find out. I'm going there for my first in-studio interview, Andrew Nominee. So really keep an eye out for this guy. He's fantastic. And I will see you tomorrow. James, what can you give us? Give me a golden nugget to end on as far as sales, something you would hope we would never forget.
Yeah. I think the important thing is to, you always have to work hard, but work smart as
there
well.
You go.
Because that'll create not only a better life style balance, but also help you to succeed. And then know when you need help. Know when you need to delegate.
To that. Yeah,
and get help. And now that kind of help is available out there, not just in my space on the sales side, but it's there for marketing. It's there for, HR, whatever it is, our CTOs. So know when to delegate and so that you can actually run your company rather than letting it run you.
Right. Got that right. It's all about systems, you guys. We don't run our businesses. Systems do when we run the systems. I'll see you tomorrow. Get out of here. Find your highest self and ease some suffering in the world. And remember, as always, when we leave, I tell you that I love you. And guess what? There's not a damn thing you can do about it. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
Thanks, Lauren.
Great job. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Boy, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind.